The wind howled across Red Pine Ridge as dark storm clouds rolled over the lonely ranch, turning the evening sky into shades of gray and copper. Daniel Carter worked silently along a broken fence line, his worn hands steady despite the rising cold. Life on the ranch demanded patience, and patience was something Daniel had learned after losing almost everything years before. Since then, he had chosen solitude over company, finding comfort only in the rhythm of horses, open land, and endless horizons. Thunder cracked across the valley, startling the cattle. Daniel gathered his tools, preparing to head back to the house when something unusual caught his eye near the old barn. Through sheets of rain, he noticed a small figure struggling against the wind before collapsing into the mud. His heart tightened. Strangers rarely wandered this far into ranch country, especially not during a storm. He ran toward the figure and knelt beside her. It was a young Apache girl, no older than 13, her face pale with exhaustion. Her clothes were torn, and a deep scrape marked her arm. Fear filled her dark eyes as she tried to pull away, whispering something he couldn't fully understand except for one trembling word. "Help!" Daniel spoke gently, keeping his voice calm as he carried her inside. He wrapped her in blankets, cleaned her wounds, and set warm stew before her. At first, she refused to eat, watching him cautiously as though kindness itself might be a trick. Daniel didn't ask questions. He simply sat nearby, giving her space, letting silence do the work words could not. Over the next few days, the girl slowly began to trust him. She learned where the water bucket was kept and followed him quietly while he worked around the ranch. Eventually, she told him her name, Ayanna. She had been separated from her people after violence forced her tribe to scatter, leaving her alone to wander for days without food or shelter. Despite the language barrier, they understood each other in simple ways. Ayanna laughed for the first time when a young horse nudged her hat into the dirt, and Daniel realized how long it had been since laughter filled the ranch. The empty house felt warmer, less haunted by memories. Weeks passed, and a fragile peace settled between them. Then one morning, riders appeared on the horizon, Apache warriors searching for their lost child. When Ayanna prepared to leave, she pressed a small feather necklace into Daniel's hand, her eyes shining with gratitude and something deeper. "I come back," she promised softly before riding away. Daniel watched until she disappeared into the distance, believing it was only a child's promise carried away by the wind. 10 years passed over Red Pine Ridge like drifting seasons that barely left a mark on the lonely ranch. Daniel Carter had grown older, his once dark hair now streaked with silver, his movements slower but steady from years of hard work. The ranch survived because he refused to give up on it, even when silence became heavier than the long winter nights. The memory of the young Apache girl he had once saved lived quietly in his mind, like a distant dream he rarely allowed himself to revisit. He had kept the feather necklace she gave him, hanging beside his bed, though he never admitted why he couldn't throw it away. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the plains gold, the sound of approaching hoofbeats echoed across the land. Visitors were rare, and Daniel instinctively reached for caution as he stepped outside. A lone rider approached through the dust, sitting tall and confident on a dark horse. The figure moved with strength and purpose, unlike anyone who usually came seeking work or directions. As the rider drew closer, Daniel realized it was a woman. She wore traditional Apache clothing blended with frontier practicality, her long dark hair moving with the wind. There was something familiar about her posture, about the calm certainty in her eyes, but he could not place it. She dismounted slowly and walked toward him, her gaze never leaving his face. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt strangely heavy, as if time itself had paused between past and present. Then she smiled gently. "Remember me, rancher?" Her voice carried warmth and confidence, yet beneath it was a softness he recognized. Daniel searched his memory, confusion turning into shock as realization slowly dawned. "I'm the Apache girl you saved years ago," she said. "Ayanna?" he whispered, barely believing the name leaving his lips. She nodded, her smile widening. The frightened child he once sheltered was gone. In her place stood a strong woman shaped by years of learning and survival. She told him how her people found her that day and welcomed her back, how she trained as a healer and warrior, and how she never forgot the man who had helped her without asking for anything in return. Daniel struggled to find words. The ranch suddenly felt smaller, as if the past had stepped directly into his present. He noticed she still carried the same calm spirit, the same kindness in her eyes. "I made a promise," Ayanna said softly. "And in my tribe, promises are never forgotten." Daniel felt his heart race as she stepped closer. "I didn't come back for shelter," she continued. "I came back for you, to marry you." The words stunned him into silence, leaving only the sound of wind moving through the fields as his quiet world changed forever. The news of Ayanna's return spread quickly across the nearby settlements, carried by traders, ranch hands, and curious travelers who always found stories more interesting than truth. Some spoke of it with wonder, the Apache girl who had returned to the man who once saved her life, while others whispered with suspicion, questioning whether such a union could ever truly belong in their world. Daniel Carter tried to ignore the talk, focusing instead on daily work, but he could feel the tension growing like a storm waiting to break. Life on the ranch had changed in ways he never expected. Laughter returned to the house, and evenings were no longer silent. Ayanna moved through ranch life naturally, repairing fences, tending horses, and bringing healing knowledge she had learned from her people. She blended strength with gentleness, and slowly the lonely land felt alive again. Daniel found himself smiling without realizing it, feeling younger simply by her presence. Yet doubt lived inside him. One night, sitting beneath a sky filled with endless stars, he finally spoke what had been weighing on his heart. He told her he was older, that his life was simple and worn, and that she deserved someone closer to her own age and world. Ayanna listened quietly, then took his hand with calm certainty. "You see years?" she said softly. "I see the man who gave me life when I had none. My path always led back here." Before Daniel could respond, trouble arrived. A group of local men rode onto the ranch days later, claiming Ayanna did not belong among settlers and demanding she leave. Fear might once have silenced Daniel, but not anymore. He stepped forward, standing beside her with a firmness even he did not recognize. "This is her home," he said. "Anyone who has a problem answers to me." The confrontation grew tense until figures appeared along the ridge, Apache riders, proud and watchful. They had come not for conflict but to honor Ayanna's choice. Their presence silenced the argument, forcing the men to retreat. Soon after, under the wide open sky of Red Pine Ridge, Daniel and Ayanna held a simple wedding ceremony. There were no grand decorations, only earth, wind, and witnesses from both worlds standing together in quiet respect. Ayanna brought out the feather necklace she had given him years ago, and gently tied it around their joined hands. "You saved my life once," she whispered. Daniel smiled, emotion filling his voice. "And you gave mine meaning when you came back." As the sun set behind the hills, the ranch that had once known only loneliness became a place of belonging. And from that day forward, whenever hoofbeats echoed across the valley, Daniel no longer felt the weight of solitude, because this time she had returned to stay forever.